lesson. In today's lesson, what I want to talk to you about is the change of register from the Chalumeau register to the clarinet register. First of all, what do I mean by Chalumeau register and clarinet register? What you need to know is that before the 19th century, the clarinet as we know it didn't exist. Instead, orchestras and composers utilized an instrument called the Chalumeau. The characteristics of this instrument are quite similar to that of the clarinet. Some of the difference you can observe between the clarinet and the Chalumeau is the different keys and the different material. The difference in the keys between the clarinet and the Chalumeau didn't permit the latter to develop on higher register as the clarinet does. So the instrument was mostly played on the lower register, and that's why we call it the register of Chalumeau. Now that we briefly discussed this chapter of history of music, we can start approaching the change of register. The change of register, and by that I mean the change from the higher note of the low register to the lower note of the higher register, being that the B, is something most students, intermediate and beginners, struggle against. And I don't think the struggle derives from a lack of practice, but from a misconduct in practice. Often a student would have difficulties reaching the higher register on the clarinet, just because he wouldn't know how to react to the change in the airflow in his throat. What happens is that while you are playing the lower register, you have all the holes open. The higher you get on the instrument, the shorter is the length of the instrument. And so your throat naturally adjusts, like when we speak, to the different position we have on the lower register. But what happens when we want to change the register? We simply start from the beginning. In the passage from A to B, the throat comes from a really open position to a really close position. The difference here being between the lower notes E and the B we have with the key is that we cover most of the keys, but in the end we have air coming out from here. So the adjustment is different from what we should expect playing the lower note on the instrument. So when we play and we don't know what to expect from the air, the passage is something like this. We have to force, we have to accommodate the air in position for the note to be played. Clearly this is not the way to approach the change. What instead we need to do is to focus not on playing the passage slowly, like most teachers would recommend. They are not wrong, mind me, they are not wrong by saying you should play the passage slow, but what they forget to mention is that you don't have to play the note slow. You have to play the space between the notes in slow motion. Because if I tell you play slowly, what you understand is play like this. But what could be beneficial from playing like this? Yes, we are spending a lot of time on every single note, but when we happen to change the notes, we don't really focus on that. We can probably, I guess, get the note right. What we lack when we study is the notion that what we need is to play slowly the space between notes, because that's where all the mess comes from. If you are a beginner, what is best to avoid a lot of work is just to focus on the space between the notes. I suggest you play really in slow motion. That's the basic. So something like this. As you've seen, we are not just working on the notes. I'm playing the notes slowly, but I'm also playing the space between the notes really slow. It's really important that we understand what we are doing while we are not playing. So for example, as you see before, when I played from A to B, the notes were fine. I mean, they were kinda fine. But what we could hear when I'm going from A to B is like I have an invisible step to overcome every time. That happens because my fingers between the key register and the passage to B, they play the half step, A sharp. This happens because playing in slow motion, A sharp comes out because of some tension. A flat comes out because of some tension I have on the left arm. What we heard then? We heard how the passage between the note A and the note B is formed by all these micro passages that we normally wouldn't hear if we were to play the phrase at a normal pace. I think that the most critical aspect to work on is that of getting a real experience of what the fingerings are. And by real experience, what I mean is that maybe you can play, I don't know, the can-can. Maybe you can play it without problems, the keys flows nice, the sound is not bad, and such and such. But when you focus on the space between every note, there is where you find the real problems. You can find every kind of problem, from your fingers not being able to play without forcing themselves on the keys, or maybe you can notice you have some problems on the instrument. The position is right, but the note doesn't come out because the key is a little bit bent. It is important to be close to these kind of problems every day, because it's the only way to avoid useless work. So yeah, it's really important to do long tones exercises, but those are good if you need to improve the tone of your note. Then it's really good to also practice the space between the notes, not only the notes. So, for example, all sort of stuff while doing this exercise. You hear your keys functioning or not functioning. You understand how your throat needs to move up or down, needs to relax or needs to tighten. So in the end, if you have tried everything and nothing is working, try focusing on the space between the notes. Not just the notes must be longer, but also the time you take to move your fingers. And so you can feel you're moving them evenly, if some fingers are remaining behind, if some others are too eager to go to the next note, and so maybe you're squeaking. You also feel if there's something wrong with your instrument. For example, I can feel my big key is a little bit busted. Probably I should get it repaired, but for another time. Great, I hope the video was helpful. If you have any question or want me to talk about some particular subject on the next lesson, just leave a comment below and subscribe to our channel. Bye!